This task of introducing our guest of honor and speaker is such a privilege. I know this one is difficult, but the thought that she is a woman of virtue and simplicity, I feel elated to have this honor to introduce her. After all, she is a living inspiration to all of us. Our guest of honor and speaker received her diploma in legal studies from Kaplan Higher Education Institute Singapore last 2015 to 2016. She worked as a barista and coffee master in Starbucks Singapore and has been a volunteer staff of the United States Embassy. Afterwards, she took Bachelor of Science work at Central Philippine University and graduated last 2020 to 2021. During her university days, she was an active student leader and organizer of various organizations she worked with. She was an editorial board staff writer of Central Philippine University Arts and Sciences Voice Prints, organizer of First Central Philippine Model United Nations last February 2019, and has been a board member and secretary of the Central Philippine University College of Arts and Sciences Provincial Council last 2018 to 2019. She was also one of the delegates of HPAIR Asia or Harvard Project for Asian and International Relations Conference 2021 and a participant to Mental Health and Psychosocial Support Skills Training Program of the same year. Previously, she worked as a paralegal at the Legal Chamber Narido law firm based here in Iloilo for 4 years and 10 months. And now, she is an advocacy program staff of Chameleon Association Incorporated Philippines for 6 months already. Ladies and gentlemen, she is a humanitarian, an advocate for the rights of women and children, registered social worker ranking 8th on the August 2021 Social Work Licensure Examination. Join me to welcome our guest speaker for tonight, Ms. Talita Cherise Marie F. Narido.
Hello, good evening everybody. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Doon man ako. Grabe ka daw ka, ano gud. I'm so happy to be part of tonight's ceremony. No? It's so nice to see all of the familiar faces sa mga, bisan sa picture lang, ang mga professors tonight. Sige, so, patulbaan ko. Long time no see everyone. So, to our esteemed Dean, Dr. Stella G. Fernandez, to our beloved department chairperson, Professor Karen D. Lozada, to our gracious social work faculty and staff, and to my fellow social work alumni, to all the proud parents and guests, especially and especially to the future social workers in this event. No? Good evening. So it is a privilege. I wait lang yun. Before I start, can everybody hear me clearly? Can you give me an emoji, thumbs up or heart sa Zoom if clear ako? Okay, sige. So, it is a privilege to be invited to speak to all of you tonight. No, gapalang niya may akong kamot na kalbaan ko. Na pressure ako. So, I was delighted when the JSO president, si Hannah, invited me to speak as I am eager to share the things that I have learned in my own journey so far. So, though I must admit, it was a challenge for me to organize my thoughts and structure this message because it's so hard to narrow down the lessons that I have learned into just a few bullet points. No? But I will try. So not long ago, I was in your shoes. I was anxiously anticipating graduation and the board exams. Like you, I was working double time to comply with the with the requirements of, for example, yung field portfolio, while simultaneously trying to maintain good grades in all the major subjects and figuring out how or where to start sa board exam review because it was so overwhelming kay kadamo gid sa balasahon. So it felt like I carried the weight of the world on my shoulders. I was so close to achieving what I had always worked towards, yet it felt endless and impossible. Definitely, no, it felt overwhelming at times. However, a practice that helped me through my struggles was asking myself questions to understand and rationalize, to understand the rationale of my worries and to reinforce ang akong purpose. No. I think that it is crucial and imperative to reevaluate our decisions from time to time. We ask ourselves questions to make sure that our hearts are still in the right place. Just like sa aton helping process, no, may akyat kita. And ang E sa akyat is evaluation. So amo na, we use evaluation to see ang progress ng aton na client or ang aton project. So with that being said, tonight there are 3 questions that I would like to ask myself, ask you, or I would like to discuss with all of you. Okay. So first question ko tonight is, why social work? No? Pwede man nga nag-nursing ta, pwede man nga nag-engineering ta. Nga agad pili, pwede ang social work man. So for me, there were times when where it felt like I made the wrong decision in choosing this career path. I always told my parents na it was kind of ironic that I chose this field, being an introverted na person, no, who has asocial tendency. Sometimes wala ko gagawa sa kwarto ko. A lot of the times wala ko gastorya sa ibang nga tao. It's kind of funny how I chose this path. Kind of funny how life turns out sometimes. I often hear the saying na social work is not just a job or profession, but it is a calling. And I wholeheartedly agree. Social work is not a profession you choose if you just want to make money or gain power. It is oftentimes a profession that is overlooked and unappreciated. Ara ang tapirme sa likod, hindi kita ang center stage, no? Social workers work hard behind the scenes, under the sun kung na-field ka mo, na in the field, crossing figurative and literal bridges to get to the clients in need. However, when you hear its call, it is something that is very difficult to dismiss or deny. For me, this call had always felt like a quiet but a steadfast conviction and a sense of urgency to contribute to something that is greater than myself. I will not sugarcoat it, no. Social work is hard work. The values of being patient, empathetic, non-judgmental, and etc. Are not just pretty words that you have to memorize to get points in your enumeration part of the exam. So they are like muscles that need to be practiced every day when you get to work. Choosing this complex and multifaceted profession is like choosing to love someone, charot, oh my hugot ako, char. So you don't accept it only for its good parts, but you accept the difficult and the tedious parts too. It is not something you can get into just for personal gain and convenience, but it is something that you continually work on and choose every day. And how rewarding it is too. It is priceless to see the sweetness of the smiles on the faces of the people you encounter. It is so precious to be able to connect with people, learning their stories and sharing their culture. Coming from an introvert na nga kung kis I have like social anxiety magtubang sa mga tao, but social worker man ta. I remember the first time that I went into the rehabilitation center sang NGO that I used to work in. So I met the young girl survivors of sexual violence. Tsura nila, mga gagmay pa, very, gagmay pa gid na mga cute na mga bata, how loving and innocent they were. They looked and they were, despite everything that they had been through, no? Learning about the injustices that they had experienced, it shook me to my core. I could not sleep that night. I could not fathom that there could be so much evil in this world. But having met them reinforced my drive to continue pursuing this passion. In this profession, we are equipped to be change makers. We get to make a difference in the lives of people in big or small ways. We get to create safe spaces where people can work on themselves, their communities, and their families. And we get to uplift or magnify the voices of those who have been shunned. I remember sa bago ko pasar sa board exam, in a few interviews, they always ask me, why did you choose social work? So my answer always reverts back to this deep appreciation sa social work. Ang essence pala sa social work no, na we all know this, it is the firm belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and of course, in sa heart of service. This is the very crux and heart of why we do what we do. So, moving forward to the next question that I will ask myself tonight, and I will ask all of you, siguro it's good that you will also ask yourself with me, reevaluate naman in yourself. So, what are some key points that I have learned so far? So tonight, I will narrow it down to 5 para short and sweet. Kaya karon mabawasan kita sa tamaan ka panungdom. So number 1, social work is not just hard work, but it is heart work. A lot of the time in the helping process, change does not only happen to the client, but to us too. Going through challenges and learning about the arduous lives of our clients humbles us and teaches us the values of gratitude and kindness. Being a social work takes a lot of self-awareness. Grabe, dalming-dalming yung mga social worker. Kaya pero may sila gapanungdong, pero may ga-assess ang selves nila to discover no, and to understand our strengths as well as our weaknesses. It is important that we know who we are and why we are here. For me, this was evident when I had my first job as an advocacy worker. I'm no longer with Chameleon Association, but there I learned a lot of things. So when I was in school, I wanted to be good in everything. Kita man sa pag-introduction sa pangkainado kadamo lang ko gintang joinan sa college kasi si Pio, no? So I wanted to be good in everything. I thought that being top 8 in the board exam meant that I was already knowledgeable enough to do my job. Abi ko, damo na ko nabalaan, kanon. So I quickly learned and I quickly understood that that was not the case. There is so much yet to learn. There is so much value in learning to understand yourself while understanding the world around you. There will be times where you will feel like giving up. And in these times, it is important to remind yourself of your purpose and your conviction. Okay, number 2 that I learned sa 5 points. Do not underestimate the power of community. So this does not only hold true in the social work practice as a method in social work, but also in the personal journey of social workers. It is worthwhile investing your time and effort in a community and support system that allows you to thrive and be the best version of yourself. In other words, value the friendships that you make along the way while you work towards your goals. In my case, isang nag-board exam ako and all throughout college man, 3 of my closest friends and classmates are the ones who kept me grounded throughout my board exam journey and until now. I took the board exam with 2 other classmates na super close with sa college and the one kami pasar. And we encouraged each other in the hardest times and celebrated our victories together as well. Without my support system, it would have been a lot more difficult to get to where I am now. Number 3, take time to listen, understand, and be teachable. So this applies to both studying and the social work practice. In studying, make sure that you are not only memorizing your books and your notes, but actually understanding the concepts which are being discussed. So it is important to be patient in fully grasping the ideas found in our books and try to see how they are in actual na application. I know budlay sometimes no do manusbleed na tasang basa sang mga orange book and brown book, but I hope that you guys take your time kay makabulig na if you really understand it and i-read nyo din. In social work practice, it is important to listen actively and empathize ara sa mga methods. Lipat lang ko ng specific na. But it can be so easy to dismiss our clients and think that we have already heard the same stories before, no? It is important that we do not forget the principle of individualization and to understand that our clients may have universal experiences, but ultimately they all lead unique lives. So in social work practice, we have to acknowledge that we do not know everything. Hindi lang man sa social work practice, but sa life in general. Now, despite everything that we study, there is always a lot more things to learn about our community, about the world, and about ourselves. Number 4, learn to manage your time wisely and learn to rest. In your journey towards becoming an RSW, there are so many things that have to be done that sometimes 24 hours in a day does not seem to be enough. So the months in review leading up to your exams will seem like such little time to read all the books, the notes, the review materials. This is where the skill of time management comes into play. So in my experience, structuring my days and my weeks, allotting time to study and rest allowed me to cover all of the things that I needed to review. Now, this can look different to everyone as each person can have different study habits or lain-lain ang aton nga mga oras, mga priorities in a day, no? However, I believe that the principle is universal. Allotting ample time to prepare and rest will set you up for success, especially sa rest na part, hindi natin dapat pag-i-overwork man ang self natin. Applying partialization or the breaking down of big tasks into smaller and more manageable ones can allow you to take on the challenge of studying or doing a lot of things without feeling overwhelmed. So the same principle applies in social work practice. It is important to practice and build productive habits of managing your time wisely and most importantly, setting boundaries once it is time to rest. Important, hindi siya katama. Because after all, it is very difficult to help other people if you are pouring from an empty cup. Fifth, last but not the least, sa 5 things na I have learned, keep the faith. So I think this is the most important one. Because it is so easy to be pessimistic, no, and nihilistic, especially in the midst of all the difficulties of becoming an RSW. You can only prepare so much, yet at the end of the day, it can feel as though you have not prepared enough. Looking back on my own journey, I remember how anxious I was, thinking that I would not pass the board exams. But what consoled me was knowing that God is gracious and He always provides. No, worrying will not fix anything. So I would like to share with you a passage from Luke 12. Amo ni ang do verse ko sang season nito before I took the exams na. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. Consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. How much more valuable you are than the birds. Who of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to your life? Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the wild flowers grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will He clothe you, you of little faith? So this passage helped me a lot when I was at my most anxious state right before taking the board exams. God knows all the desires of our hearts and He always knows best. So He knows the plans that He has for us, plans to prosper us and not to harm us, plans to give us a hope and a future, as it says Jeremiah 29:11. So we stand firm on our faith and solid ground, that is God's grace. After all, no, CPU, our school motto is Scientia et Fides, or science and faith. So i-practice na gid na ang aton nga school motto. Okay, So last and final question, third and final question that I want to discuss tonight now. What message can I give to the future social workers of CPU, especially as they enter into their respective communities? Kay ma-field pinakamuno. So here it is. Tiny ripples of change can turn into tidal waves. The small actions that we do as individuals can bring great change to our families, communities, and the greater society. Your choice of becoming a social worker can contribute greatly to the betterment of our future, especially in the world that we live in today. So thank you very much. Thank you for making that decision. The road ahead of you will not be easy, but will test the strength of your character and conviction. Hold on to your who's, hows, and whys. Always remind yourself of the reason why you chose this path, and this will keep you grounded. In the pursuit of in your pursuit of social justice and the protection of human rights and dignity, may you continue to always be inspired by the stories and the causes of the people that you fight for. May your work always be rooted in kindness and compassion, and may you become fearless agents of change, building a better world for this generation and the next. So, to close this message, I would like to leave you with a quote from former US President Barack Obama. I really like this quote. So it says, change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. So thank you very much for having me, and that's all. Good night. Good night. Good evening. Thank you.